Junkies.
What's going on, golf addicts? Welcome to the Tour Junkies Golf Show here on the Better Sports Network. We're coming up on our 10th show ever, Pat, on the Better Sports Network. We're just getting in the groove. We're getting in the groove, and we're getting into the peak golf season is here. I'm excited about it. We've got another elevated event in the Arnold Palmer Invitational this week from Bay Hill. The Florida swing continues. Before we do that, we're going to recap the Honda, talk about what we learned, your big week, some of the key storylines going around the world of golf. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do just the tip again today, going to get back into the cash game, build for DraftKings 50-50, double up, hopefully make you some money, double up some cash for the people out there. We've got a special guest coming up, two-time winner of Bay Hill, Matt Every. PGA Tour Pro Matt Every is going to join us, and he's actually competing in the Puerto Rico Open this week on the PGA Tour. So going to look forward to talking to Matt. But first off, Pat, I mean, take some time, man. Gloat. You did it a little bit on the show last night, but I guess maybe another thing would be like, as you've had time to reflect on hitting Chris Kirk at 35-1, your first outright of 2023, and you're in a dark place last week, as we know. You drew a butterfly on your face, symbolizing your rebirth.
Yeah.
What did you learn? What'd you learn? What can you tell the people?
I learned, DB, when you come out of like the dark cocoon that I was in, okay, the dark place, and then you become reborn as I was with a victory. That you got to stay humble, DB. You got to stay humble. You can't rest on your laurels. So really, I just know that I've got to come back better than ever this week and give more winners. But it was good to finally hit a winner after a long time. And I mean, DB, I hit like 15 winners last year. So
okay, maybe it wasn't 15, but okay, yeah,
a little too big for my britches already with this win. I mean, am I not being I think it was like 15, I don't know, something like that. But look, it was good to hit Chris Kirk, and what a great guy. He tried to lose it for me. I don't know what would have, if he had lost the tournament after 18, hitting it in the water like he did. I don't know. You probably wouldn't have a host today. I don't know who would be hosting the show. It would probably not be me. I would be locked in a closet somewhere for at least, I'd be doing the Aaron Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers locked him. Like, what is he doing? I think he's doing it right now. Like,
he's out. He's out.
Oh, he's out.
I think he did 2 days. It was 2 days. It was going to be 4. I think he did 2, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'd still be locked into the dungeon or whatever. What does he lock himself into?
He did the darkness retreat. He was he went on Pat McAfee's show and talked about it. It didn't really seem like a darkness retreat. It just seemed like a a long, take a nap for a couple days. I mean, he had like
a long nap. Yeah.
But anyway, you'd be in the darkness retreat.
But I'm not. I'm out into the light. I'm a butterfly reborn out into the light, going to get some nectar or something. Do butterflies get nectar, or is that bees?
I don't know. We're not really a big nature show here, but I think it's a good reminder for a sports bettor, especially golf bettors that, like us, tend to get geared up and fired up about the long shot or the mid-range bomb, right? I think it's a good reminder because last week we both really like Chris Kirk. I mean, we talked about him on literally every piece of content we did. And when I went to go make my betting card, DB's Big Balls betting card, which self-imposed restriction of 25-1 odds or longer, Kirk was staring at me at 35-1.
Right there.
And despite talking about him all week, despite having him in DraftKings lineups, despite betting him top 20, which we hit that, despite having him in a head-to-head matchup, I was just like, man, I just don't like Chris Kirk at that number. I like the guy. I think he can win. I think he, he's got it. He's won on the PGA Tour before. It's been a long time, but I just couldn't get over the fact that I wanted the number to be a little bit longer. And I don't really know I don't know what I wanted it to be. Maybe 45, 50-1 is where I felt like it was fair. But obviously in a field like last week's at the Honda that was so terrible, I mean, very opposite of what we get this week for the elevated event. Last week's event was awful. I mean, the field was not deep at all. and so you're gonna pay prices for names that you're not used to paying, right? I mean, what's Kirk's odds this week? I mean, it's probably at least double what it was last week.
Yeah, I think he's around 50 or 60 to 1 right this week.
Yeah,
So
but still, like, I wish I would have. You and I have had the winner of the Honda on both our cards before when Matt Jones won. And my card came out before yours did, but I just wish I would have just said, you know what, David, if you think he's going to win, if you like where everything's adding up for the guy, then you know just hit it. Just hit the number. And we both could have been gloating in this thing. It could have been a huge week for TJ. Not that I'm not happy for you, I am, but I think what I've learned from that is something I could share with the bettors out there that may be listening. So,
I,
that's
I think you're right. I will add this too. I think when you see somebody like Chris Kirk, especially in the calendar year as he has, third place at Sony, third place at the American Express, and he talked about this after he won in his press conference that those two events really had him like thinking, you know what, I can win on this tour again. And what did he do? He goes out and wins. And I think that really just shows the importance again of looking at that recent form and looking at a guy that was in contention in two events this year.
yeah.
And I mean, that gives these players a lot of confidence. And he went out and then he wins. And so I think that just adds a little bit more emphasis on that recent form as a factor when you're looking at taking these guys.
Yeah. It was a fun tournament to watch coming down the stretch on Sunday. If you're a golf nerd, I mean, the story about Chris Kirk and his sobriety, and then Eric Cole, the 34-year-old rookie grinder. It was fun to watch. It was a good tournament. I enjoyed it. And we're gonna get events like this in between these designated events where the fields are just garbage. But it is fun to watch a tournament like that drastically alters a guy's career path or changes their life. It's really fun to watch stuff like that on the PGA Tour. So it was a good time. Also, in the world of golf, we had Liv kick off their season at Mayakoba. Me and my friend Joe Idoni at Tour Picks, host of the Preferred Lines podcast, did a betting preview. Talked about Liv and Mayakoba, and our good buddy, our friend, multiple recurring guests on the Tour Junkies podcast. One of these days, we'll get him here on the Better Sports Network. A guy you grew up hitting balls next to and playing golf with at Augusta Country Club. Charles Howell III wins the Live event by like 4 or 5 shots at Mayakoba, wins a cool $4 million. And his team, the Crushers, Bryson's team, notches the first win of the season. Did you watch any of it, Pat?
I did. And as a matter of fact, I think I sent you a screenshot of me watching it because you kept giving me score updates. And I wanted you to know I was actually watching it so you wouldn't give me score updates. But then you still gave me updates anyway. But I did watch it. And I think it was interesting. The coverage I'm still getting used to. I can tell you this, and you probably picked up on this. There is a definite, I guess, emphasis. They are leaning into the team deal way more than they did last year when they were just getting it out off the ground. Like the team thing is something they are big on, and they're, I think that's their model. You can already tell they're going to lean into that a lot. They're already, they're showing more of the team deal. It's just, that's the thing that I think Liv is really hanging its hat on from what I could tell and what I'm watching.
Which they should. I mean,
I agree because that's different.
That's a big part of the differentiator. I do think, and I've heard this talked about before, I do think they're missing something with how they pair people up, because I do think once they get on the course, the team element is a little lost when, you're Charles Howell and you're on number 7 and your captain is on number 13 and your other teammates on 18 and y'all are shotgunning around, and there's kind of separation there. I think it would be interesting to have, at least 2 members of each team playing together, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that and the shotgun thing, DB, kind of hurts it a little bit, because if they're not shotgunning, if they're not going off at the same time, maybe they should shotgun. Speaking of shotgunning, that'd be kind of cool if they were doing that. But look, if they're not going off at the same time, then some of their teammates are finishing before they finish, and they get to come and watch them, and you get a little bit of a Ryder type feel to it. I think that would be cool too.
Yeah, they still haven't nailed it yet, but I think they're working on it. They also, the coverage is different. It's very different. They are trying to appeal to that young, 20 something. They are not interested in stealing away or capturing the 50, 60-year-old plus audience watching PGA Tour events or Golf Channel. And you can tell by the coverage, the music, the intros, the outros, the bumpers, the segments, the shots in the crowd of a couple ladies kissing in Club 54. It was just electric. The whole broadcast was very different. So it's going to be just as Live has been overall. It's polarizing to some extent. Like my dad would turn it on and be like, "What the hell is this?" But I was watching it, and my 12-year-old was with me, and he kind of thought some of it was interesting, some of it was cool. He doesn't know a lot about the behind the scenes of it, but they're definitely doing some different things over there at Live, and all in all, it's great. I love seeing Charles Howell, who's been good to us. He's just a great guy, consummate professional. Good to see him take one down and win some money for his family and do his thing. I love seeing that. All right, we're gonna take a break. So coming up next, we're gonna preview the Arnold Palmer. I've got just a tip for you that you need to know. Our guest, Matt Every, two-time Bay Hill winner, PGA Tour pro, coming up. All right, stay right here on the Better Sports Network.
Making you money in daily fantasy sports and golf betting. Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
As a longtime baseball fan, here's my message to other baseball fans, to steal a line from the Packers' future Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Everyone needs to relax after what we saw this past weekend as spring training games out in Arizona and down in Florida got going, and we're inching closer and closer to Major League Baseball opening day. The rule changes in Major League Baseball is not for myself. It's not for you out there, the hardened baseball fan, whether you're a fan 5, 10, 15, 30, or even 50 years. From all around this great country. It's not for those that are going to be locked in. It's for trying to generate more fans. So if they want the pitcher to go out there and work in rhythm with a guy on base, begin the windup within 20 seconds, nobody on base, begin the windup within 15 seconds, or have the batter make sure that he's back in the batter's box within 8 seconds, then making the base pass first, second, and third bigger, eliminating the shift. All of this is to make the game better. We've seen leagues, whether it be the National Football League. Do you think it's the same league as it is today in 2023, or what we saw in 2022 as it was 30 years ago? No, it's not. Is NBA basketball the same? No. How many games do you see being played? 83-79 finals. You don't see that at all. So every league adjusts to try and bring what? More fans into the sport. And that is something that Major League Baseball is going out there and trying to do. I've been critical at times of Rob Manfred, whether or not as a MLB commissioner, whether he likes the sport based on some of the rhetoric that he has spewed in years gone by. But I'm going to be honest with you, as a longtime baseball fan, I've been a Yankee fan my entire life. Watched a ton of Met games here in the tri-state area. Watched baseball all around. Can't wait for October baseball. Think it's absolutely unbelievable what is transpiring now and what's happening now, and the rule changes being brought about baseball. It's going to bring back to the game to when I became a fan, where the stolen base was something, moving guys over was something, having men on base, batting averages ascending, not being an all or nothing league where either you're striking out or hitting the ball over the fence. And that is what baseball is trying to do. So as everybody tries to adjust, and change is difficult, whether you're changing your diet, exercise routine, changing your relationships, changing a job, change is different. I get that. And it's hard. But let's take a step back. Let's understand what Major League Baseball is trying to do here. And they're trying to repopulate or repopularize the sport. That's what they're trying to do. They're clearly the third most popular sport in the United States. They want to make it less regionalized. This is the way they need to go about doing it. I'm all for it. For more content like this, download the Better Sports Network app or go to bettersports.com.
Now back to Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
What's going on? Listen, we want you to be a part of our talk shows on the Better Sports Network. Check out the program schedule on the Better Sports Network app and at bettersports.com. 7 a.m. Eastern, you got the Front Yard Fantasy Morning Show. 10 a.m. Eastern, Moose and Keith, our boys. We like to go on that show from time to time. 12 p.m. Eastern, Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com. 5 p.m. Eastern, The Playbook with Finsty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Plus, Better Sports Live with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla, the FFPC, the Dynasty Nerds, Campus to Canton, and Monday Night Rants with Edward Ross. Check it out. Better Sports Network is hopping right now. We've got a great lineup, and we're happy that you're watching here with us on the Tour Junkies Golf Show. I'm DB. I got Pat Perry with me, just kind of recapping what we learned from last week at the Honda. Pat hitting Chris Kirk at 35-1. We got some units to play with. We're excited. Everybody's excited because this field at the Arnold Palmer Invitational in Bay Hill in Orlando, Florida is stacked. Another elevated event. So let's talk about what to do with it. All right, Pat, let's talk about some betting trends with the API, things to know. We'll start off the golf course. It's a par 72, so you get your 4 par 5s this week. Bay Hill Club and Lodge, been here for a long time, known as Arnie's track, plays around 7,400 yards or so. Typical kind of Florida track. I played this golf course about 3 or 4 times a couple years ago. It's not one of my favorites, okay? It's a tough course. A lot of pros find this course really challenging. There's water. There's grainy Bermuda lies that you got to deal with and greens you got to deal with. There's a lot of longer approach shots. It kind of restricts longer players off the tee and forces them to scale it back a little bit, hit it into the fairways, and then you have mid to long iron approach shots into this golf course. You got to be able to get up and down. It's a lot like Honda last week where, you kind of have to be doing everything well, tee to green, to stay and contend here at the Honda. And we've seen winners here, pretty notable names. First of all, Tiger Woods freaking owned Bay Hill. And why did he own Bay Hill? Well, he's one of the best iron players in the world, maybe ever, as he is a lot of things. But his irons at Bay Hill is really what got it done. But if you look at the past champions, even in recent times, Scotty Scheffler won last year. Bryson DeChambeau won in 2021, back when he was good. Tyrrell Hatton, his only PGA Tour victory here. Francesco Molinari, major champion. Rory McIlroy, Mark Leishman, Jason Day. And then our guest coming up in just a few minutes, Matt Every, won twice. Then we also don't see, Pat, a whole lot of long shots win here. I mean, Mark Leishman at 100-1. Matt Every won at 300-1 and 66-1 the 2 years. So it's probably not another long shot event this week.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you're going to see that, especially now that it's an elevated event and we're having an even better field than we typically get here. Always, falling right before the Players Championship. It's interesting to see the top players in the world that do tend to skip this tournament, considering, Arnold Palmer is one of the greats of the game. And so I know they do try to, they have to work their schedules a certain way. But you're right. I mean, it's a very difficult course. We're going to see a lot of carnage like we did last week at the Honda Classic. So if you're playing DFS lineups, you're going to see some of the chalk miss the cut. It's just going to happen. But the big deal that we're starting to see this week is the weather. That is going to be key, and especially the wind looks like it's going to be howling on Friday. And so this is going to be, I think, the first real huge weather wave that we're going to get this year. And I'm hoping it's not like the Players Championship last year where literally half the field was wiped out because of the winds and the weather. I hope we don't see that, but it's starting to look a little bit like your afternoon guys on Thursday, morning guys on Friday are going to probably get the better end of it, but we'll be checking that, constantly. And that's going to be huge. And so we really, this is really going to be the first week where weather is going to be something you absolutely have to pay attention to, whether it's with your bets or if you're setting, DFS lineups.
Yeah, and I mean, we can't stress that enough right now. I mean, if you're new to golf betting, I can't remember if we've done just the tip on this or not, but if you're new to golf betting, the weather can sometimes be a huge factor. And in a week like this, we recommend you might need to hold back the units a little bit and don't fire so quickly on a Monday or a Tuesday or even a Wednesday morning, because it's also Florida weather. And you and I live pretty close to Florida. You're really close to Florida. We're really familiar with this. Like the climate can change quickly. The forecast can change quickly. The winds can shift. It can move up in times. It can move back. The gusts can die down. A lot of different things can happen in a short amount of time. So don't get yourself pot committed with too many bets, because if there does end up being a substantial wave advantage and you're on the wrong side of that, it's going to be really hard to hit your bets or pay out in a DFS or something like that.
And you're going to be very frustrated early on.
Yeah.
So,
and right now, I mean, Thursday looks you could make the argument that the first guys out Thursday morning have a little bit of an edge. But Thursday, for the most part, looks very just benign for everybody. It doesn't look like it's going to be much of an advantage either way. And then Friday, the whole day looks very gusty and going to be really, really challenging. We're also already hearing that the greens here at API or at Bay Hill are very firm already. And there's no real serious rain threat in the forecast the rest of the week, which means by Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, these greens are going to be firm AF, which means, guys are going to miss some greens, which means the ball's going to roll off into the rough or into the sand or, closely mown area or whatever. You're going to have to scramble here. Like I said up top, you have to do everything really, really well at Bay Hill. I want to go through a few quick trends too, Pat, because experience around Bay Hill also seems to matter. 16 of the last 16 winners at Bay Hill made a cut in the previous API appearance. This is also not a place for first-time PGA Tour winners. Unlike Tyrrell Hatton, he's the only one that has done that in the last 26 years. 25 winners at Bay Hill had already won on the PGA Tour or DP World Tour. Actually, Tyrrell Hatton probably had already won on the DP World Tour. And 25 of the last 27 winners had one previous top 10 finish in that season. So you got to be in good form. 16 of the last 18 winners finished in the top 20 in a previous Arnold Palmer. So having some experience around here is a big, big deal. Can't stress that enough, and can't stress it enough right now to just hold your horses, firing too many bets. I think it's okay to throw in some. I've already thrown in some bets on some head-to-head matchups where I like the value on a guy that was going off, Thursday afternoon and Friday morning versus a guy who was going off Thursday morning and Friday afternoon. But other than that, you might want to just pump the brakes a little bit because this could be a weird spot.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into one of our favorite segments, something we've been doing since the beginning of the show because we're just trying to educate you, get you into golf betting, things you need to know. We like to call it just the tip. One tip for your golf betting, for your DFS, whatever it may be, giving you just a little bit of tip here, okay? And it's on something that can be a little complex. I'm going to try to explain it I'm going to try to dumb it down.
I'm glad you're taking a complex one. I try to keep mine a little less complex. So
we all are very aware, Pat. We all are very aware. But something that you really need to know about and you really need to understand, because the first time you do this bet and then this happens, you're going to be like, where's my money? Okay. And it's dead heat rules in golf. I believe dead heat rules do apply to a few other sports, but for the most part, it's a very golf-centric rule that all sports books are going to have a policy on. And it really mostly comes into play when we're talking about finish position bets or first-round leader bets. So any bet like that where there could be multiple players tied to hit that bet. So a first-round leader, you could have 3 or 4 players or 2 players or more tied. Same thing with a top 5, a top 10, a top 20, a top 30, a top 40 finish. You could run into ties, right? So it's that's when it's going to come into play, and it's usually going to be in those scenarios. You can also have it in like 3-ball matchups or something like that. But what normally happens is your bet amount is usually cut by how many players are tied for those spots. Now each book does it differently, and last I checked, this is important to know. Last I checked, BetMGM is one of the few, pretty popular public books in the U.S. that do not have dead heat rules, which is good for you, the bettor. That means they pay it out in full. So let's break this down a little bit more often, or a little bit more granular here. So let's say you have Rory McIlroy's 2-1 to finish top 20, and he finishes in a 2-way tie for 20th place. Okay, so now you're going to have the odds cut to either plus 100. So the odds of plus 200 now are getting cut in half because 2 people finished tied for 20th. So now you're getting plus 100 at whatever your stake is. That's what you would rather have happen. The other scenario is when books cut the stake. So then they say, oh, we're still going to give you 2-1, but we're going to cut your stake by however many people are tied. So if you bet $100, now we're going to cut your stake to 50. So you basically lost the first 50, and we're going to pay out the other 50 at the same 2-1 return. So in both of those scenarios, in the first scenario, you're going to get your full stake. If you bet $100, you're going to get that at plus 100 for a net return of 200, a total return of 200. In the other scenario, you're basically going to lose 50, and then the other 50 they're going to give you at 2-1 or at plus 200, so you're going to get 150 total return. So it's important to know these things because, in this scenario, I'm giving you a two-way tie, but it could happen 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys tied. A lot of times we see that with like top 20s and top 40s. And you need to understand how those dead heat rules will apply in all those situations because you'll end up being excited that you hit a bet, and then you see the money get paid in. You're like, what the heck just happened? But again, I think MGM is the only one that still does not pay out dead heat rules. And now a lot of times their odds are maybe not the best compared to another book, but that's something you might want to take into consideration. If it's only a few points shorter at BetMGM, but I know I can get it, I can get the full payout, I may go that direction. I hope that made sense. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. If you have any questions, drop us a tweet, slide in our DM, send us an email, info@tourjunkies.com. Look us up on Twitter, Instagram @tour_junkies. Pat, do you think I did that, or do you understand it better now, or you just?
I did understand it. Yes, I did. You did a good job. And they are confusing anyway. They are confusing, and it's important to know them because it's really mostly important to know it because when it does happen to you, you don't get so just ticked off about it. Like you could just say, "Oh well, DB taught me about this. I learned this from DB. His just the tip, so I'm not going to get angry." Is what it is.
Yeah, it definitely will happen. Like I like betting a lot of top 20s and stuff. And if you get 5 guys tied for 20th, your stake is going to be your stake or your odds are going to be cut by 20% because you've got five players tied for that finish position. So it is definitely something you got to know, which is why too, when we talk about first round leaders, which I don't think we have any today, Pat, because the tee times just came out. But a lot of times we talk about those.
Yeah.
That's the biggest reason why we talk about having a first round leader number that's big. First of all, because, the variance of a first round leader is very, very big. And, so you might as well just bet it on a long shot because any one of these players can get hot for one round. But then the likelihood of after just one round, the separation of play not being all that much. And so you may have a handful of guys that tie for, the first round lead. So if you bet a guy at 90-1 and 3 other players tie, you're basically getting him at 30-1 now. So if you're betting, Rory McIlroy to be the first round leader tomorrow or Thursday, at Bay Hill, and he's 10-1, and 3 other people tie. I mean, you still hit, but it's not great, right?
Yeah.
No first round leader bets today, right?
No, I got a few.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I'll give them to you real quick. First off, one is a guy that you're probably going to be surprised because we talked about this on the show last night, and you, when he came up, I didn't really like him, but I think he can be a good first round leader. Aaron Wise, DB, 80-1.
Love it. Going off early.
Aaron Wise. Yes, all 3 of these guys are going off early. Aaron Wise, Wyndham Clark is 100-1. I love some Wyndham Clark. Yep. He can score. Like he can score on the par 5s, and then Alex Smalley is 125-1, also going off very early in one of the first few groups. I like those 3 guys. So those are my first round leader bets, DB. Just going with the morning guys, see what happens.
Yeah, and first round leader, a lot of times we will go with the morning guys because they're getting the softer conditions, usually more benign wind, all that kind of stuff. So for first round leader, definitely, usually that's the advantage. So I know we were talking about kind of the PM/AM wave having more of an advantage for the full round, but I like all 3 of those. All 3 of those guys can go low. Very nice there, Pat. Appreciate that. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to come back with Matt Every here in just a minute. We're going to build a cash game lineup for DFS. So coming up next, right here on the Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Better Sports Network.
Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network. Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Better Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
Well, LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover, and then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. 2003, Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
No way you know.
and Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14,
No way you know all this.
14, also a trick question.
Uh-huh.
I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
Oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay. Keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, okay, hold on.
Oh.
16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. Yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had 2 people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Better Sports Network. Helping you have more fun with golf. Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show. Had a really good conversation last segment about dead heat rules, where that applies in golf betting, some key trends, things you got to know at Bay Hill this week for the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and Pat dishing out a few good first-round leader bets. I liked all 3 of them. Those were juicy for Thursday morning. All right, Pat, let's do a couple things here in this segment before we get to our guest, 2-time PGA Tour winner at Bay Hill, Mr. Matt Every. Let's get back to it. I think we skipped it last week. Thankfully, we had to do what you did last week. We need to have a rebirth on this segment.
We did a little reset too. So
yeah, we needed to do that. Because the Hunter Mahan interview last week was fantastic. If you haven't had a chance to catch that, you need to go back and watch it. But we're going to build our DraftKings 50-50 or double up lineup. Before we do that, though, next week, I want to inform the people about what's going on next week. Next week, another elevated event. It's really the biggest event the PGA Tour puts on all year. And after the 4 majors, it's probably the next biggest event in golf throughout the year, although it's starting to look more and more like an elevated event. But the Players' Championship in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, TPC Sawgrass is next week. Me and Pat will be on site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, doing the media coverage on site. We're going to get some great insights and intel from our friends. We're going to walk the golf course on Tuesday and Wednesday, but we're going to do the show early so that we can get it out to you in advance. I'm excited about it, Pat. We've done this every year now for a few years, right? We were there COVID year. We were there when COVID hit.
Yeah.
That was when the whole world shut down right there after round 1, I think.
Yeah. What was the band that you went and saw that? And
Chainsmokers.
Chainsmokers played, and then everything hit the fan.
We had they had a super spreader event on the 17th green of TPC Sawgrass in 2020. I was there. The Chainsmokers were playing, and literally the next day is when everything happened. But we were there. Well, we've been there a few years. It's a good time. It's going to be a huge event. Normally, the books are going to have odds out early. They're going to have even better options to bet on things. That DFS sites are going to have bigger and better contests. It's just a huge week, and It's really it's really a great event. I'm looking forward to it. But last year it was decimated by weather, just absolute horrible weather. And it really put one side at a major advantage and another side at a major disadvantage. So hopefully that doesn't happen this year. Okay, let's get into our cash game lineup build. Now, Pat, we are, again, not doing too great here. We're 2-4 in terms of cashes on the year. And
I'm feeling it this week. I'm feeling it.
This should be something that we should be nailing like 60 to 70% of the time. So we gotta make up some ground, okay? We have to agree on the picks. Maybe that's been our problem. We got to push back. If we need to push back, we need to push back. We got to agree on the picks. We're building this for 50-50s and double ups only. So if you're dipping your toe in the golf DFS waters, this is a great place to start. You're not getting into the GPPs, the ownership leverage and all that stuff. You're just trying to make a lineup where all six guys make it through the cut and play the weekend. That's all we care about. So we don't have to have the 3 biggest names up top. We just care about all 6 making the cut, playing the weekend. So it's a strong field. That's not hard to do, but that is important. All right, Pat, who wants to start here? Who's starting, me or you?
Why don't you start us off? You start us off.
Okay, too easy. I'm going to start with the first guy in the 9K range. It's at 9,700, Max Homa, who just, he just continues to be freaking amazing. Finished 17th here last year, 10th in 2021, 24th in 2020. Homa's just playing outside of his mind right now. So I don't know why we don't start with him, because we can, get him in the 9K. That's a solid start, I think.
Yeah, I absolutely love Homa. And he is he was going to be the guy I started with anyway. So you know what, DB, I think we can stay in the 9K range. And okay. I think we could actually go with a guy that hasn't played here since the COVID year, but Xander Schauffele. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, Xander. Now, you may push back a little bit, but he is in the afternoon wave already. I've seen it, the afternoon wave on Thursday. So as we look at it right now, we got to try and do this lineup based on the way the weather looks right now. Xander's in the good wave, I think.
Yep.
What are your thoughts there?
Yep, I don't mind that at all, as is Max Homa. So I'm with you on Xander. I was trying to think. I was looking at some head-to-head matchups earlier today, which are good to look at if you're playing DFS. It can help you make some decisions, really, if you see kind of where the sharper books are putting players or where the lines are moving. I did notice Xander pretty decent favorite, -116 to -104 favorite over Tony Finau on one of the sharper books. And I love Finau, but I thought that was a little surprising to see him that much of a favorite. So I can get into Xander. All right, I'm going to go down to the 8K range, and 8,300. We're going to go with Tyrrell Hatton. I normally don't love Tyrrell Hatton, but Tyrrell Hatton loves Bay Hill. Winner here, almost won again last year, was runner-up, in good form, also a PM AM wave guy. I was looking at some other matchups again with Hatton today. Looks like a lot of good sharp books are liking Tyrrell Hatton. So I'll go with him at 8,300. I'm sure you agree, because I know you like Hatton.
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about going with him before I went with Xander, and I thought, I don't really feel like getting pushed back on yet this early. So I thought you were going to push back on Hatton, but you didn't. So I'm glad you took him. Okay. 2 guys right here I'm going to be kind of choosing from, okay, because we got 7,600 left. I think we could look at either Ricky Fowler, or I think we could look at Keegan. Keegan's at 7,600. Ricky's at 7,700. I'm kind of leaning Keegan, DB.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's got such a great record here, but so does Ricky. Ricky's got a good record. And you know what? Scratch it. I got to go Ricky, because I love how, even if Ricky does get some bad weather, I think he can play. He plays well in bad weather. We've seen it constantly. So I think let's go Ricky there at 7,700.
Why don't we do both? I'll go Keegan at 7,600. I like them both. They're both PM guys. So right now every player is a PM AM stack. And I think at this point in cash, you may as well just make the next player a PM AM stack, if you're asking me, but it's your pick. So you get the last one.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, now what happened to the tea time? All right, let me look through here, because now I got to figure out if we're going to go all in here. How How about Fleetwood?
I was literally typing his name. I'm in.
Yeah, let's go Fleetwood. He's on the afternoon too. Let's go. Yeah. All right.
So it's if you're looking at this going like, man, this is it's an interesting lineup. I mean, we used all of our salary on DraftKings, which is perfectly fine to do in cash. We recommend you probably need to use much. We don't always use all of it like we did here, but a fairly balanced lineup, I'd say. Cheapest player, $7,500 Tommy Fleetwood. Most expensive player, $9,700 Max Homa, with Xander Schauffele, Terrell Hatton, Ricky Fowler, and Keegan Bradley, all in there in between. All these players have, I would say, I guess Xander has the least amount of history here.
Yeah.
But between the other five, all have a really solid history here. And we talked about how, at Bay Hill, history tends to matter. Having some success around here tends to matter. So that's important. All these guys arrive in good form, I think, with as difficult as Bay Hill plays. It's not a place you probably need to be trying to find anything with your golf swing, and it doesn't appear that any of these guys are. So, what we're trying to do in these 50-50 and double-up lineups is high floor and get all six of these guys through the cut. Because if we do, we're very, very, very highly likely to cash no matter what they do on the weekend. We just need them to make the cut. So there's your 50-50 and double up lineup. If you want to roll that out on DraftKings, or just, if you want to take from us kind of some advice on how to build that lineup, I think that's what you need to do. All right. We've got a guest coming up, Matt Every, 2-time PGA Tour winner at Bay Hill. He's going to talk to us about Bay Hill, his success at Bay Hill. We're going to ask him some other weird questions, I'm sure. He's the co-founder of Live Forever Golf. We're going to learn about that. Matt's a great guy. He's absolutely hilarious, even though he's a Florida Gator. So, it's going to be good. Stay right here. Tour Junkies Golf Show on the Better Sports Network.
Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network. Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network.
Calvin Ridley yesterday, he applied for reinstatement from the National Football League.
Ridley, Kirk, Zay Jones, Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence. That is crazy potent on offense.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I mean, Ridley's great.
I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy I want in fantasy this year.
I think you're probably right. I think they're just going to get better and better. First off, Peterson's a wonderful offensive mind, a great head coach, and we've seen that and saw that this year as Jacksonville made it to the postseason. And Trevor Lawrence, anybody that questioned whether or not he could play in the National Football League or just how good he was going to be in the NFL, those questions were answered this past season as in the second half of the year. Statistically speaking, he was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. That's how good Trevor Lawrence is. You throw Calvin Ridley into the mix, he's going to be great. Yeah, I think Lawrence is a guy you want. I think Ridley's a guy you want. Clearly, Travis Etienne is going to be one of those early, first-round selections as well, being the dual-threat running back that he is, not only running, but also catching the ball out of the backfield, Keith, and the ability to take something small and take it to the house. Take a 5-yard dump pass, make a guy miss in the open field, and he's gone. I mean, you saw that with Travis Etienne this past season for Jacksonville. Yeah, sky's the limit. I mean, I think you're going to go from a team in the year span where you wanted no part of the Jacksonville Jaguars when you're looking at fantasy football to where you want as many Jaguars as you possibly can, because they're going to be really, really productive. And let's see if they get their tight end back as well, who had
Evan Ingram was great.
And Evan Ingram, who was great this past season.
Yeah. I mean, if they keep that whole core together, their offense is going to be one of the best in football. Like, I legitimately think that they could be one of the best offenses in football.
Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, then
and Ridley,
Travis Etienne, Trevor Lawrence, a good offensive line, and you've got Doug Peterson being creative calls.
Right?
And you look at that division. The Colts are a mess.
Yep.
Titans
look like they're on the downslide.
Titans are on the downslide, right? That window is clearly closed. And then you got the Houston Texans.
Years away from relevancy.
Yeah.
I mean, Jacksonville could win 11 games next year.
Moose and Keith, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on Better Sports Network. Now back to Tour Junkies on Better Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to the Tour Junkies Golf Show. And you know what? Technical difficulties strike. Our boy Matt Every couldn't quite get the Wi-Fi strong enough in Puerto Rico to join the show. He's deeply regretful. We are too. He told us to tell everyone hello, and he said to pick him to win the Puerto Rico Open this week. We'll go take a look at those odds in just a minute. But
Yeah.
Matt is the two. You know, Pat, kind of crazy. 2-time past champion at Bay Hill and not able to play at Bay Hill this week. Instead, he has to play in Puerto Rico.
That is kind of surprising. You would think that, especially with the way, Arnie, he won multiple Masters, and the Masters always gives an invite to their past winners. So that is a little bit odd, but it's also odd that he won here twice. I mean, I love Matt. I love Matt, but I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh, dear.
But no, the course history thing lives again, right? For the Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. Now I'm intrigued. Like, if we look at, because he won the first, so when he won the first year, he won at 66-1. And then what's crazy is let's see, I'm gonna go back
to back years.
Yes. So
That's
he won
what's so crazy. Like, he won it back to back.
I know. So he won okay, so he won in 2014. Okay. When he won in 2014 at 66-1. In his previous 3 starts, he had finished 8th, 24th, and 6th. 6th at the Genesis, 8th at the Valspar. Really good tournaments. Then he wins the API. Okay. From there, he he does okay. And then when he gets back around to Bay Hill the next year, 12 months later, his incoming form coming into Bay Hill that year was miscut, 63rd, 49th, 69th, miscut, and then almost a dead last at the Tournament of Champions. So terrible form. And then all of a sudden, bang, shows up to Bay Hill, and he gains like 10.5 strokes tee to green and wins Bay Hill at 300-1. And after that, since then, he's not had, that was in March of 2015. Since then, he's only had one, two, that was in 2015, remember? 2 top 10s. Crazy. But that just kind of speaks to the variance a little bit, too, I think, of API. Like, it's so hard. But, I mean, Matt Every, great guy. It was a great story when he won. I mean, that was unbelievable when he won at 300-1 in that field. That was a no-joke field.
Yeah. He's a super talented player. 500-1, DB. 500-1 to win Puerto Rico this week.
You know what he told me? He told me last night. I talked to him for a little bit last night, and I didn't tell you this yet, Pat, but he said he's striping it. He said he's been doing a little bit of work and said he feels really good, and he's pissed. He told me, he said, I'm kind of pissed that I didn't get the invite to the API, being a 2-time past champion. I'm having to play here. And I was like, well, dude, I mean, no better way to give the middle finger to not getting invited than to win the Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Just do it. 500-1?
500-1. He's at the bottom of the odds.
Yeah, you gotta throw down a little something on that, huh?
Sorry, there's some 1,000-1 guys, but he's 500-1. Robert Gomez is in the field. He's at 1,000-1.
Wow. I think I saw something on Twitter today that, like, the Puerto Rico field, the average age is like over 38 or something. It's insane. Why don't we talk about the Puerto Rico while we got a little extra time? Let's talk about the Puerto Rico and just look at the odds board just a little. I'm on FanDuel. I can't find it on
that's where
TK.
I am too.
So they've got Nate Lashley. Nasty Nate Lashley is a 16-1 favorite. I would never do that in a million years. I would do an 8-ball of crack rock before I do Nate Lashley at 16-1.
Wow, okay.
No, I would never do that. Don't do that, kids. I would rather have Nate Lashley at 16-1. Akshay Bhatia, who played the Honda last week, got a lot of TV time because he took his shirt off a couple times to hit a ball out of the water, and the PGA Tour acted like no one has ever taken their shirt off in the history of the world. And so they tweeted it out a million times. He's 20-1. I don't think I want anything to do with that either. Anybody in here that looks interesting to you?
There's really not, man. I mean, there's some guys that I will say this, that Ryan Gerard kid who finished in the top 5 last week. he just looks the part if you watched him. I mean, he was confident. He made a few mistakes on Sunday that cost him, maybe like a solo third or something, but 29-1. There's some guys in here that are, have got plenty of experience on tour, like a Harry Higgs at 33-1.
I was looking at him.
I mean, that's interesting to me. Your boy Norlander Henrik at 50-1. He's a member at the club you play at.
Yeah, I was looking at some guys in here that the last thing I want to do is take like an old guy that rarely gets to play at all anymore on the PJ Tour. I'd rather take a guy that plays enough on the PJ Tour that they know they got some game and they really want to do everything they can to make this the last time they have to play in an alternate event. And I think Higgs fits that category. How about Tano Goya at 41-1, just right there below Higgs, who's been kind of playing okay. We interviewed Tano back in the fall. Good guy. He hits the ball a long way. I think that'll help out here. Hank Lebioda is another one at 50-1. We know Hank. He's been close on the PGA Tour a couple times. He's interesting to me. Brent Grant at 65-1 bucked his head in the West Coast swing. I think he was doing all right. Young kid. Probably he's like, nah, I don't want to be. Brandon Matthews at 80-1. I don't know.
Dude can hit it so far. So far.
Yeah.
Scott Brown is 80-1. He's 1 year before.
Yep.
He's played a few PGA Tour events this year. Maybe one. I played the Farmers. I think he made the cut. Maybe not. But he's been playing some Corn Ferry events. But Scott Brown is super talented and still he's still young enough to get it back together and win an event like this, I think.
Matt Every 500-1 is insane. His top 20 number on FanDuel is 11-1. You can get Matt Every top 20 11-1. I think I like that too.
Are you going to look at Jonas Blixt?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No. Let's get off to Puerto Rico. Let's talk about the Masters. Masters is coming up.
Jeez, already almost here.
It'll be here for a minute, dude. And I'm in Augusta. The pollen in Augusta literally showed up yesterday, like someone would just show up at your house unannounced. Like they're not here now, and then the doorbell rings and they're here. There was no like call you ahead of time, be like, yo, I'm on the way. I'm gonna swing by your place. Wasn't any of that. The pollen just did that yesterday. There was zero indication that there was pollen coming. And then yesterday, I look out my window and I can see the breeze blowing the trees and just yellow smoke, like looking
the
like
whole state of Georgia is a yellow cloud right now.
It's unbelievable.
It's terrible here in Savannah too. But we got it before you did. It actually it knocked on the door and said it was coming here. It didn't just show up. It's been here for like a week and a half. It's like the in-law. You're just ready to leave your house because they're staying too long. And,
pollen always overstays.
Yeah, and we're not getting any rain. We're not getting any rain either. It's dry as hell because we always say in the South we need the rain to knock the pollen down, just knock it down out of the air, and that's not happening. So yeah,
this isn't a weather show. This is not a weather show, but I was talking about the Masters, which has the pollen is an indicator to us Augusta people. Oh crap, that means the Masters is going to be here soon.
Yeah,
and it's also a good thing. I'm telling you that if you're coming to Augusta for the Masters, you're not going to have to deal with the pollen because it's
out of the way.
Early. Yeah, it's come so early, it won't be here, which is great news. But let's talk about the Masters. And I got DK Sportsbook pulled up, just looking at some odds early. We probably wouldn't recommend firing on a lot of these guys early and, hitting some of these futures, although I think we hit maybe one or two guys a couple weeks ago. But, not surprising. Jon Rahm is your favorite at 6-1. Rory at 8-1. Scheffler and, shockingly, Cam Smith are both 12-1. Listen, I think Cam Smith is still a top player in the world. I don't know why in the world I would have him the same odds as Scotty Scheffler, who is
I'm
also
a little surprised at that too.
Yeah, that one's a little strange. But what do you think about? If I were setting the lines, I would put Scheffler ahead of Rory right now.
You would?
Why wouldn't you? Scheffler's defending champion. He's playing as good, if not better, than Rory right now?
I don't know if I'd necessarily put him ahead, but I'd probably put him right there. I'd put him fairly even.
I mean, you're Rory Homer.
I am. I think some of these. I'm interested. I feel like some of these numbers have gotten shorter. Like Morikawa at 18-1. I feel like you could have gotten that probably around 25-1.
Mm-hmm. I like that Xander line I'm looking at, 16-1.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. Jordan at 20 is basically untouchable until you see any signs of life with his putter. It is so bad right now. I don't understand it. It's just so bad. I don't think I could do that. What about DJ? 22-1.
Yeah, I mean, do we have another live event before Masters?
Yeah. I think there's a couple. I think there's maybe a couple coming up before Masters. Let's see.
It'll be interesting to see what those guys do leading up to in the live events, because they didn't. These top guys did not perform well last week in Mayakoba.
So you've got Tucson at the Gallery Golf Club, which is March 17th through the 19th. That's coming up next. And then they'll have a week off, and then right before the Masters, literally the weekend before. So they'll have a tune-up the weekend before in Orlando at Orange County National, March 31st through April 2nd. Yeah. So we will see these guys right before Augusta.
I tell you who the most interesting to me is, because this is one of my favorite bets on the board, DB, and I think so. I really want to see how he plays in these live events before the Masters. Is Joaquin Niemann at 50-1?
Sure, yeah, me too, dude.
I love that bet, and I love that number for him.
50,
he can win Augusta, man.
Yeah, he can. He's got a great short game. Hits it plenty long. Oh, that's dirty. I love that. I like that. I mean, DJ at 22-1. I'll take. I'm not gonna turn away from that. Brooks at 35. How about that? Remember when Brooks was an auto bet beyond 20-1?
Yeah. He scares me, though. I don't think I'd do that.
We've talked about it all year, though. You know, these live guys, when they get to Augusta, you know, there's going to be some chips on the shoulder. There's going to be something to prove, I think, whether they admit it or not. It's going to be there. And one of these live guys really wants to win the Masters. And they do anyway, but, I mean, even more so now. I mean, it's interesting to think about, like, what if Brooks does kind of turn it around a little bit in time for Augusta? I mean, if you watch the Netflix thing, clearly the majors still mean a whole lot to him. And, you know, I mean, I could see him between now and then. He's 35-1 now. I could see him somewhat finding a little bit of form. And then what if he has a good week right before Augusta and everybody's like, oh, crap. And he's all of a sudden now he's 20-1. I don't know. 35 is just interesting. That's a good number.
Yeah.
Who else? Anybody else?
I'm trying to look at like really long odds to see if there's anybody that I would play.
For Bryson, 40-1. Freaking hack. Really long, like super long.
Some of these guys I didn't even know were in the field.
They may not be. I think DraftKings puts these guys in the field early.
Yeah,
in the event. Like, I don't know if Matt Wolff is Matt Wolff.
That's the one I was looking at. I was like, I don't think Matthew Wolff's in the field.
No, he's probably not. Schwartzel, 150-1, past champion. He had a good season on Live last year. I do know that. Not Danny Willett. Minwoo Lee's interesting at 150-1. I don't know if he's qualified.
I think the key with a lot of these two that are longer shots, especially if they're like first timers here, we always, one of the big things with the Masters you got to know is that first timers rarely win. Fuzzy Zeller was the last one in 1977. So,
producer Will brings up Patrick Reed 50-1 as well. I think I'd rather have Neiman at the moment.
Yeah, I think Neiman would be.
Paul Casey 80-1. Ricky Fowler 80-1. I don't know if he's in yet.
He's not in yet. He's not in yet.
God, I like that though. I feel like he plays his way in, don't you think? Because he's got to be. I know we got to go.
I don't think he's going to get in the top 50. I think he's going to have to really show out this week, and the players are the two that he really has to
He's currently 70th. I think he can get to 50th in the world by the Valero, right? All right, we got to go. We'll see you next week. Players Championship Show, Tour Junkies, Better Sports Network. You know what it is. See ya.